Hello everyone, Maurice here, and today I'm bringing you another meta report for Axie Infinity Origins Season 8 now, and it's the rare era and it's the early rare era, so it's pretty early on, and one of the reasons is because want to give the data early, but also because the minting of the runes and charms are now shortened to 1 day, so that just means, in theory, then players will be able to get all the runes and charms for the rare era by basically day 2. So decided to just focus on, like the data for day 2 and 4, and of course, as you can tell, it's probably going to be a bit more messy just because it is the early era. Okay, one thing that's not messy is for sure Giant Bubble. If you've played Axie Infinity Origins for the past few days, then you probably know Giant Bubbles is kind of everywhere and is definitely pretty strong. And I say everywhere, of course, it's near the top mostly. But yeah, there are other, of course, archetypes that are also doing pretty well. And to be honest, Giant Bubble, it is strong, but it might not be as strong as you think. Okay, so let's just get into it. So, yes, first of all, talk about the player-based statistics first, and not much to say here. Of course, people are still continuing to climb. The main thing is this is pretty stable. I think compared to last season, it's kind of similar in terms of like the number of players at this particular point in time. Yeah, so 30, 40K players. Yeah, it's kind of basically what we get. Um, yeah, and well, one of the reason I guess is that there's really not much changes in terms of the crypto and Web3 environment. I feel compared to last season. That's why unless there's something major that happens, it's probably going to be similar. That's how I feel. Just because the game hasn't really been like there's really not much of that change. It's not like there's a lot of ads on Axie or something that just bring in a lot of players. So in that sense, it's just going to be similar in terms of the numbers. Okay, let's just get into the archetype usage. So archetype usage is, yeah, as you can see, main one is definitely giant bubble, at least at the top here. Even like up to 50%. And that's not even it, right? And actually, I should mention about the thing on the right as well, which is multiple archetype. And actually, a lot of archetypes, they can basically just run giant bubble and it will still work. And so there's actually a lot of archetypes here that are basically giant bubble with maybe like leafy or leaf with like even topaz or something like that. As long as it's aggro like thing, or anemone, of course, so that's another one, right? So as long as it's aggro, I think, yeah, then it kind of just fits the giant bubble and it just deals more damage. Just do faster, do damage faster. That's basically how it is. That's why there's just a lot of giant bubble around. Having said that, there's still other things as well, especially at the very top. There are about at this point a 30 something player, but at the on top. But yeah, of course, this is a bit old data. I must say, it's like day 2 to 4. But still, feather, anemone, poison, even goo, perhaps leafy. There are other definitely archetypes that are also viable at the top end. Those I would say are even stronger than Giant Bubble. One of the reason, of course, is being that Giant Bubble, how I define it is just any team that runs more than two, or literally more than one, so 2 or 3 Giant Bubbles, well, I would just classify as Giant Bubble teams. And there's just a lot of variability within the actual archetype. You can just run Giant Bubble with anything really that's aggro. And so that's why the win rate, of course, is going to be a bit more messy, but still, it's like really not the highest at the very top. So that's the main conclusion here. Okay, and I guess should then also go into the win rate, but before that, I do want to highlight 2 more. One is spikes. It's actually you don't really see that much up there. It's really fallen off quite a bit compared to last season. And then I'll say the other one is for sure like Glorious Main, I think, right? It's in the other, or let's say the other, but like another rune that goes from epic to rare and finding definitely some success. So I will say also watch out for Glorious Main, which can also be pretty good. Okay, let's just look at the win rate. So as you can see here, yeah, there's this poison, feather, anemone. I'll say those 3 are really the big ones in terms of really like success. Goo also, even though Goo hasn't really found as much success like down there below, like in terms of the ranking, but I do feel like it definitely has some potential as well. And I would say Meet Sleep as well. Of course, at the moment it's pretty low, but like I do feel like there is some potential. I'll go into it more when I get into the matchups. And yeah, so those will be, I would say, the tier one, right, kind of thing. Whereas Leafy, Chorus Main, I think those two definitely have some more potential. And even Sandal and Fury Aggro, those can continue to climb, right? Just given the win rate and so on. Whereas Giant Bubble, Jinx, they are, I think, of course, Giant Bubble really quite variable, so it's very hard to say. So, well, given that 50% of the teams are playing Giant Bubble, then it's not going to be as extreme in terms of the win rate. So how I feel like at the moment is that whichever team can actually win against Giant Bubble or can do well, let's say for example faster than Giant Bubble or something, right? Basically, for example, other aggro teams that just do faster damage to kill off the opponents actually before they actually get the bubbles and do damage, then yeah, those will definitely be successful. Okay, then let's actually get into the matchup. So here is the matchup really. Of course, it's like overall matchup above 1300 victory stars, and yeah, at the moment quite all over the place to be honest. Even Giant Bubble, different good matchup, bad matchup. Of course, there are some extremes cases, but the two things I would want to point out here. One is Goo, actually. You can see Goo is actually doing pretty well in terms of win rates. That's winning against quite a lot of different teams. The only one that's keeping Goo down is really Giant Bubble, just because Giant Bubble can kind of be like a combo team in a way as well, where at the end you can just do a lot of damage with like the bubbles. So this is where yeah, like a combo team like for Goo might be a bit harder, especially with this kind of combo team where you just stack up a lot of bubbles, and you can't really play around it in a way just because you can't really dispel the bubble bombs and so on. So that's tough. And of course, the other one is Fury Aggro. Fury Aggro can just be quite fast. But of course, I must say the statistics is maybe small numbers as well, so might not be too representative at this point. Okay, the other thing I want to talk about is actually the meat sleep because it's also pretty good. Of course, it's a small sample size still, but it's actually very good, except against Giant Bubble. And this is actually the main thing that's pulling it down. 26% win rate against Giant Bubble is just so bad. That's because like half of the playing field is with Giant Bubble. But without Giant Bubble, I think Meat Sleep is gonna be pretty good. Yeah, that's how I see it. Even Triple R maybe, but I would say like Triple R is not as good against some other teams as well. Right, but Meat Sleep is actually pretty good, and Goo. So those are the two that I would definitely think should keep an eye out for, and especially when they decide to nerf it next season or something, then yeah, this should be one of the targets as well in terms of like nerf, right, for meat sleep, right, in terms of rare era, just because without giant bubble, this is going to be just very strong, I think. Okay, yeah, and I think that is actually pretty much it. So giant bubble, even though I just scroll up again here, right, looking at the overall usage is really quite popular, but I would say it's really not like the strongest team. The strongest I would say is definitely Feather, Poison, and Anemone. So those are the three, and then even maybe Goo is getting up there as well, I feel. So if you're looking for something to climb, then actually different things are able to climb, to be honest. But of course, if you are just looking for something that you haven't really played before, then Giant Bubble might be one that is finally viable. And of course, the other is Goo. So Goo is actually, I think, has the biggest potential of, you know, I would say fun factor in terms of just something new that you haven't played before, but also having the actual, win rate, I think that comes with it. Of course, Giant Bubble as well, but I think Goose, yeah, definitely is the one to look out for. Okay, so I think that's it for this video. Do check out my blog post. There are a lot more like information here down below as well. Just additional information that I'm not going to go through. But yeah, so check out that, and I'll see you in the next episode.